Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an icon of modern architecture that was, believe it or not, almost a complete and utter disaster. This is the story of Singapore's Marina Bay Sands, a tale of absolutely insane ambition and a last-minute discovery that nearly brought the whole thing crashing down.
So, we're going to start this story kind of near the end. Picture this. Years of construction are done. The finish line is right there. And then, the engineers find a terrifying flaw. A flaw that could bring the entire multi-billion-dollar structure down.
Yeah, you heard that right. That was the question suddenly staring the entire team in the face. Those three massive towers, the ones meant to hold up that famous sky park, well, it turns out they weren't perfectly rigid. They could move, they could sway. And this discovery came dangerously, terrifyingly late in the game.
Wind tunnel tests dropped the bombshell. In a typhoon, the tops of those towers could swing up to 200 millimeters apart. To put that in perspective, that's about the length of your smartphone. But that's not even the worst part. They could all move in different directions at the same time. Not good.
And the scale of what could go wrong here was just immense. We're not talking about a few cosmetic cracks. That kind of flexing could shatter the gigantic infinity pool on top. That could lead to a catastrophic failure of the entire structure. All those years of work, all those billions of dollars, were literally on the verge of collapse.
So you're probably asking, how on earth did they get into this mess? To really get it, we have to rewind. We've got to go back to the very beginning and look at the unbelievable ambition that was driving this whole project from day one.
The whole idea came from Las Vegas Sands tycoon Sheldon Adelson. And look, he didn't just want another hotel. No way. He wanted a true icon, a building that would literally become the identity of Singapore. So, the pressure to create something mind-blowing was on from the absolute start.
And he was ready to put his money where his mouth was. The budget for this project was a staggering $8 billion. Just to give you an idea of how much money that is, you could build 5 Burj Khalifas, the tallest building in the world, for that price.
Now, to build a dream this big, you need a serious workforce. We're talking about a literal army. 16,500 workers brought in from all over the world, all working around the clock to make this vision a reality. And if all that wasn't crazy enough, here's the real kicker, the deadline. Adelson wanted the whole thing done in just 3 years. The construction team? Well, their first, more realistic estimate was about 7 years. Yeah, just a slight difference there. The race was on.
Okay, so with that insane deadline looming over everyone's heads, the challenges started immediately. Before they could even think about the top of the towers, they were facing massive hurdles just trying to get out of the ground.
Their first enemy? The ground itself. The entire site was built on this stuff called marine clay. It's this soft, wet soil that's about as stable as quicksand. It was a nightmare. Every single time they dug a hole, the clay around it would just ooze right back in.
So what do? Well, their solution was pretty ingenious. They decided to build a massive 1.5-meter thick concrete box deep into the ground before they even started excavating. This diaphragm wall held all that mushy clay back so they could build the foundation. The catch? This whole process took a full year. That left them with just 2 years for everything else. No pressure.
So, they solved the ground problem. Next up, the design of the towers themselves. See, on paper, they looked beautiful, so elegant and curved. In reality, they were a total physics nightmare. That angled part was constantly trying to pull the straight part down, which could have created a domino effect and toppled the whole thing. So after somehow conquering all of those early challenges, the towers were finally up. They were standing tall. But this brings us right back to that crisis at the top. After all that incredible work, the whole project was in jeopardy because of that 200-millimeter sway. I mean, can you even imagine? This was the brutal reality they were facing. They couldn't just tear it down and start over. The financial cost was one thing, but think about the emotional investment. Thousands of people had poured their lives into this. Was all of that about to be for nothing?
So for months, they were stuck, brainstorming, running simulations, getting nowhere. And then the breakthrough came. And it came from a place nobody was looking. They stopped looking at other skyscrapers for the answer, and instead turned to a totally different field. Bridge engineering.
The answer was something called movement joints. You know how a really long bridge can expand in the heat or move in the wind without breaking? That's because it's built in sections with these special joints that absorb all that motion. The engineers had a light bulb moment. They could use that exact same idea, just 200 meters up in the sky.
So here's the really cool part, how it all works. The towers are actually allowed to sway on their own. The sky park itself isn't rigidly attached. It's a separate steel bridge that just rests on top of them. Then these huge movement joints connect everything, and they can absorb up to 250 millimeters of movement. It lets the sky park basically float up there, perfectly stable, while the towers kind of dance in the wind underneath. They even split the infinity pool into 3 separate sections, just to be safe. It's brilliant. Okay, so the theory was brilliant. Problem solved, right? Well, not so fast. Now they actually had to build it. We're talking about lifting the weight of 2 massive cargo planes and assembling it all with absolute precision, 680 feet above the city.
And the weight was just mind-boggling. 1,400 tons of steel for the Sky Park's bridge structure alone. That was way too heavy to lift in one go, of course, so they had to break it down into 14 massive individual segments.
And lifting just one of those 100-ton pieces was a whole drama by itself. The process took 16 hours, and it was a constant fight against the weather. I mean, if a storm kicked up with that much steel hanging in the air, it could basically turn into a giant wrecking ball. At one point, they had to stop the lift for hours, just waiting for a safe window, before finally getting it secured around midnight. And then they had to do that 13 more times.
So yeah, in the end, that last-minute crisis and its brilliant solution delayed the whole project by a full year. But in 2010, Marina Bay Sands finally opened its doors to the world. The impossible had been done. That dream of an icon for Singapore was, at long last, a reality.
You know, the story of Marina Bay Sands is so much more than just an amazing piece of construction. It's a masterclass in creative problem solving, and it kind of leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? When we're faced with what seems like an impossible problem, is the real barrier the challenge itself, or is it just our failure to look for an answer in the one place we never thought to check?